Bună seara și bine v-am găsit la o nouă ediție de Talks by Softinator, ediția cu numărul 147. O să vedeți câteva mici schimbări și anume că am schimbat formatul, am trecut de pe Google Meet pe Zoom Webinar din cauza micilor probleme întâmpinate cu attendees de data trecută. Sperăm să nu mai fie nicio problemă, așadar dacă vreți să nu ne urmăriți doar pe live și vreți să interacționați cu speakerul nostru din această seară, puteți să dați join pe linkul de Zoom pe care îl găsiți în comentarii. La final, când o să fie secțiunea de întrebări, o să puteți să puneți direct voi întrebările. Dacă sunteți tu shy, le puteți pune în continuare ca și comentarii tot pe live și o să le pun eu mai departe, dar vă sfătuim să join, mai ales că după poate mai stăm un pic la o vorbă. Ok, să revenim la talk-ul nostru. În această seară avem un singur speaker, dar este un speaker de calibru. Este vorba de Adrian Punga, CTO la eJobs, care este programator din 1990, din același an în care m-am născut și eu, deci eu eram mic acolo și nu făceam nimica și Adrian deja scria primele linii de cod. Amazing. Are multe accomplishment-uri sub centură, o să-l las pe el să povestească mai multe. Câteva din ele ar fi 3 startup-uri pe care a reușit să bootstrap. Așa că, Adrian, o să te rog pe tine să spui câteva cuvinte despre tine, despre trecutul tău, cum ai reușit să ajungi aici și ce ne-ai pregătit în această seară.
Bună seara și bine v-am găsit. Ce să zic despre mine? M-am apucat de programare cumva ca mulți alții, pentru că îmi plăceau jocurile pe calculator și vroiam și eu să fiu în stare să fac jocuri. De acolo am început să scriu cod și destul de repede nu m-am mai jucat deloc pe calculator și a rămas doar să scriu cod. Am avut totuși ocazia timp de mulți ani să lucrez în industria jocurilor, unde știu că a fost destul de ciudat, cel puțin cei care m-au cunoscut în perioada aia știu că nu mă jucam, dar făceam jocuri. Și a fost fain. Din punct de vedere tehnologic, industria jocurilor te solicită destul de mult. De adevăr, m-am apucat în 1990 de programat, imediat ce au apărut primele calculatoare, dar cu adevărat profesional programez din 1999 și am trecut în perioada asta prin foarte multe limbaje de programare. Era să zic toate, dar e imposibil pentru cineva într-o viață să treacă prin toate. Și în momentul ăsta, după ce am văzut atât de multe limbaje de programare și atât de multe procese de dezvoltare, aș putea să zic că am prins cât de cât experiență să pot să vorbesc despre asta. Și nu e neapărat necesar să am și dreptate. O să spun niște afirmații destul de controversate în seara asta. Sper să avem timp la sfârșit să ne și contrazicem puțin. Ce să spun despre alte achievement-uri ale mele în viață? Am lucrat, prin multe companii de toate felurile. A fost frumos în toate. Am amintiri deosebite de la toate firmele prin care am lucrat. Au fost și momente triste, ca oriunde, dar am învățat din ele. Și vreau să povestim, în seara asta vreau să povestim despre ce a mai rămas din Agile. Aș vrea să discutăm asta în engleză imediat, pentru că dacă vor să se uite și oameni care nu înțeleg română să poată. Dar dacă introducerea e în română, continuăm așa deocamdată. Și ce pot să zic? Titlul este un pic clickbaity. O să vedeți unde duc discuția asta până la final. Să vedem cum continuă.
Super. Înainte să începi, am eu o întrebare. În ce loc ți-a plăcut cel mai mult să lucrezi? Adică pe ce domeniu? Să faci jocuri sau altceva?
Da, interesant. Sincer, sunt două feluri de mi-a plăcut. Jobul cel mai drăguț pe care l-am avut e jobul în care am învățat cel mai mult, cel de la Medianet, sau cum poate e cunoscut mai bine, Ziarul de Iași, unde am fost administrator de rețea. Dar acolo am avut ocazia să cunosc o grămadă de oameni foarte, foarte tari și am avut timpul necesar să învăț. Deci, din perspectiva jobului cel mai frumos, ăla a fost. Din perspectiva efectivă a muncii, da, cred că jobul de acum e cel mai tare, la eJobs. Ăsta are cele mai multe challenge-uri tehnice și mi se pare că da. Mi se pare că odată ce termin cu challenge-urile astea tehnice, va fi un loc unde lumea o să vrea să vină. Unul la mână să învețe, doi la mână să lucreze într-un mediu corect ingineresc. Asta îmi doresc. Asta e. Da. Deci e cumva dual răspunsul.
Super, super. Mulțumesc. Păi te las să intri în prezentarea ta despre Agile. Okay. Te las și să schimbi limba, de fapt.
Let's switch to English then.
Awesome.
Yeah, let me share this. Okay. I hope you can see it.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. So, you know the 10-20-30 rule for PowerPoint presentations? A PowerPoint presentation should have 10 slides, last no more than 20 minutes, and contain no fonts more than 30 points. So to avoid all these PowerPoint limitations, I chose to use Google Slides instead. So, by the way, this is a 30 points font, which is a little bit too big, I see. And yes, this is going to be the level of the jokes tonight. So I'll start with the history of Agile. So, of course, the first thing is, why was there a need for Agile? And the answer is, it was an answer to overly regulated, overly planned, rigid, and large, huge, heavy process methodologies that were present in the market in the 1990s. So software developers thought that the lightweight methodology would be better, and they started to create all sorts of methodologies. Some of them are listed here. They were more or less created on the date specified, because they weren't really standardized by that date. For instance, Scrum is something that we're going to talk a little bit tonight. Scrum was not really created in 1995, but that was the point when it was for the first time formalized. And all of these Agile methodologies were actually created before the Agile Manifesto, which was the thing that kind of gathered all the principles of Agile in a very short form, which is still the same today. There was a lot of discussion about maybe updating the Agile Manifesto, and this never happened. It's thought to be perfect as it is so far. So that's why people needed Agile, to have lightweight processes. Now, that happened back then. Now, in our days, Martin Fowler, one of the guys that actually created Agile, says that the fact that we need Agile today is for a different reason. It's because people use the most common methodology used to create software is code and fix, which is the exact opposite of heavy processes that were happening at that time. It's no processes. We just code, we don't care, we fix whatever is there and hope it works. So Agile comes to apply some more discipline in order to be able to I don't know, to have some process, but not a heavy process, so that people follow this discipline, not just throw it away because it's too much. Now, I hope you know who's this guy. If you don't know, this is Uncle Bob. or Robert C. Martin, his his real name. This guy did a lot of good things for the software development industry, and he is the one that kicked off the Agile Manifesto meeting. He is the one that invited the people to talk about what they were doing as methodologies and find some common ground. And what they came up with at that ski resort where they met in 2001 is very little, actually. They didn't agree on much at that point, but they finally agreed on a name, which was Agile, on four core values and 12 principles. And I think it was enough. It was enough because it created a whole movement that's still alive today, and that's what's good about it. Now, this guy, I'm sure you don't know who is this guy. So, yeah, no answer still on the chat. This is Mike Biddle, and this is the guy that came up with the name Agile. He was one of the 17 guys that gathered at Snowbird, and he was reading a book in the times when he came to that gathering, and he was also the second Scrum adopter after Ken Schwaber. This was the book that he was reading, Agile Competitors and Virtual Organizations. This book was actually about the fact that a lot of companies were changing and very scared of the things that other companies are faster and deliver more results easier. And actually, for them, Agile, it was a thing that was happening to them. It's kind of like the global warming. It was something bad. So the thing was that they found out that the only solution to Agile is for them to start being Agile too. And what does that mean is these are the values of Agile. I will not read them. I will leave them to you here in case you want to go over them later. The same thing with the principles. I highlighted here some principles that I want to talk a little bit about, because in the times since 2001, some of these principles were not really followed. And I refer mostly to the principle number 7 here, working software is the primary measure of progress. We invented so many ways of measuring progress, but very rarely working software is one of them. We have points, we have t-shirt sizes, we have hours, we have anything but what was initially intended. Principle number 4 is very interesting to me because business people and developers should work together. And today it's kind of like business people hand over the project to the developers and then expect some result by a certain date, which is, I don't think, very agile. And principle 9, which I think is the most missed of them all, because attention to technical excellence is a thing that was actually the initial purpose of being agile was to create good software products, and good software products don't appear without technical excellence, without people that really understand what they're doing. The principle 10, simplicity, again, is a thing that is a lot missed in all the processes that we created based on Agile later. We have a lot of things that are happening in, let's say, Scrum. We have a lot of meetings, we have a lot of rituals. They're not really simple anymore. It's hard to keep track of the things that you have to do to get out the project, even with Agile. I leave the rest to you, but I think from time to time, it's good to go back and read this, like understand them and understand where we sit and what we have right now. It's this is why they're called principles, to keep them in mind. Now, in order to have an idea of what is Agile today, I found this map, which is very nice. It just has everything in all the Agile, in most of the most important Agile manifestations on a subway map and how they intersect. And it shows very nicely how certain things go together or not, or they're simply very separate. It's nice as a reference of saying if you're doing something, where it comes from. Like for instance, velocity. Some people would say that velocity comes from Scrum, but it's actually from extreme programming. So these are guys that met at Snowbird. These are the initial 17 people that created Agile. Down there, it's Bob Martin, and also the creator of Scrum, Jeff Sutherland, and first adopter, Ken Schwaber. So after 2001, there was another movement that was in 2005, not very known. It was the Declaration of Independence of Project Managers. They were project managers were trying to create a similar movement. It didn't really catch on, but it's nice to put it on the history map because it happened. And then again, in 2009, there was something which I think was very good for the Agile. This is the first real upgrade to Agile, which is the software craftsmanship movement, which said, okay, Agile is good, but it's not enough. We need more. And again, I'll leave this with you to go through the 4 modified values of software craftsmanship. Now, in the description of this talk, I was talking about business people taking over Agile, and I'll do a small terminology intermezzo here to just clarify what I meant by that. So there are 2 kinds of business people. The first kind is the good kind, those who are doing sales, customer relations, which are gathering requirements for the developers. I call them honest business people, and are the guys who you should collaborate with for the whole duration of the project so you have the best product possible. The second kind are those who take advantage of new cool initiatives like Agile, but don't actually produce anything but confused hot air, wide logic gaps, certified certification paper, cargo cult masters, practitioners, cult coaches. And I call this dishonest business people. And I think you should avoid these guys. It's easy to spot them. They seem to possess magical or mysterious knowledge. They sell certifications and titles. They impose rigid rules that push for adaptive process, which is a little bit contrarian. Have very meta business titles like Agile Evangelist or Certified Scrum Trainer. And usually when you replace them by a religious, political, philosophy leader, you don't notice a difference. Their output is the same, behavior, discourse, everything is the same. They're just replaceable. So, and I call them dishonest because I met some of these guys and I know they know what they're doing. They do that knowingly. So, but they take advantage of people that don't know yet to take their money. This is why I say they're dishonest. Now, the guys that I presented earlier in the picture have job titles like software engineer for Uncle Bob or software developer for Martin Fowler and so on. And they don't call them Agile coach or Agile guru. So I'd say, why would anyone else? If these guys are so humble, I think we should all be humble. So let's get back to our Agile thing. So Agile has 2 components in it. One is software development methodologies and project management. And I think project management is just a way to reduce chaos in a project. So a better than random outcome is achieved. Now, there are some kinds of project management with different qualities and ways to reduce chaos. So for instance, for Scrum, time boxing and fixing the iteration scope are some ways that they reduce chaos with. Now you can choose any kind of way. Now, there are many ways that were tried. All of them have some qualities, and they fit in some kind of projects. Yeah. For instance, Agile is considered not a very good way to create bridges, because it might be a disaster if you create 80% of a bridge. So don't do scope reduction on the bridge. You do waterfall there. Now, project management, again, can be separated from software development methodologies, and sometimes they're mixed. So names can be deceiving. So I can call my Scrum, but it's something else than what other people say is Scrum. My Kanban has some lanes where I put the labels. Their Kanban has an Argent slot where they put things that come up every day. So the truth is, software development and project management cannot really be separated. When I refer to project management, I refer to project management for software products, yeah, not the general project management. Now, one of the things that Scrum tries is to separate project management from software development. So Scrum evolved into a thing that is only project management, although it started from software development, and now Scrum is for everything. But the thing is, project management doesn't bring a lot of value if it's separated from the rest. What I realized after years of trying Scrum is that Scrum succeeds only when everything else except the project management is already working perfectly. Like, people are motivated, the technical details are in place. When everything is perfect, it works. I'd say most of the things that you can try in that situation will work. But Scrum, being a thing that's only project management, doesn't care about all those details. So it's already supposed that you got them working. You have the best people with the best motivation and the best technology. So we got to Scrum. So the question is, why do so many people use Scrum these days? And I think it's because SEO. It's when you look for Agile on the web, you'll find mostly Scrum results, and also because of marketing. Because there's this simple picture that says that this is Scrum. So it's very simple to look at it and say, okay, yeah, it's simple. I won't understand this. I don't have to learn something very hard. I can focus on my product. Yeah. One funny thing about Scrum is that Scrum is evolved very little in the period since 2009, when the first Scrum guide appeared. The only thing that's substantial to Scrum that was added was the grooming session for the product backlog. That's the only thing. Actually, the funny history of Scrum, and let me see if I can open this here. I created a small infographic. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It kind of started in 1986, although this is a little bit fuzzy. Well, that was when the first mention of the word was in a book called The New Product Development Game by some Japanese guy in US and a Japanese guy from Japan. And then in 1993, Scrum is really born. Jeff Sutherland used it on a project, then formalized it in 1995. Then in 2001, they created the Agile Manifesto, which was based also on Scrum and on the other methodologies. And then in 2009, there was the first guide to Scrum by Ken Schwaber, published by Scrum Alliance. Also in 2009, later that year, the first Scrum guide is published again by Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland. And then in 2010, the first Scrum guide is published again, a third time. I don't know why. And then there were some iterations, 2011, 13, 16, and 17. Not a much change during this time. But I noticed that in the last Scrum guide from 2020, Scrum is finally Agile free. There is no mention of the Agile or the Agile Manifesto. At most, it has some of the Agile principles baked in, but it doesn't refer to it at all. Now, let me do this full screen again. Yeah. Now, I'm being a little bit of a hater here because there are some other changes to Scrum that happened in this time. So expanded its scope, as I was saying, from building software products to solving complex problems. And then the release planning was removed, sprint burn down and release burn down are not longer mandatory, etc. What I think is that all of these changes are insignificant because it doesn't really help me in my day-to-day work. So it's okay, it's words, sometimes it's values like courage, openness, respect. It's mostly words. It's not really something that helps any project become better or any product become better. But where did Scrum come from? This required a lot of digging. So in that book, in the new product development game, they were talking to guys at Honda about a thing I call Proto Scrum. It's the thing that they were using at that moment in the companies that were becoming agile and were threatening their competitors. And they were saying things like, I believe creativity is born by pushing people against the wall and pressuring them almost to the extreme. It's like putting the team members on the second floor of a building and removing the ladder and telling them to jump or else. So Scrum was not a very happy place at that point. Then there were things in Scrum which were later removed, like multi-learning or transfer of learning, which were concepts to that proto-Scrum. I think they were removed because learning is not very popular. They were central to the process originally. And then there was one thing that just disappeared from Scrum, the subtle control from management. So management was entitled to control the team, but in subtle ways. They couldn't do it like obviously. It was, yeah, I don't think Scrum was cool with this thing, that this is why they removed it. So there were some limitations stated in that book, like it required extraordinary effort on the part of all project members. So they had to do a lot of overtime in order to make it happen. And then it didn't really apply to breakthrough projects or with innovations or big projects where they couldn't talk face to face. It didn't really apply to organizations where they had one leader like Steve Jobs talking and letting everyone else what to do. So I think Proto Scrum was for regular people doing small and not very innovative projects, and in which they had to invest a lot of effort and overtime. Not very cool, not easily marketable as a, I don't know, certification thing. So yeah, this is where I stopped, and I was looking at the schedule of Scrum, and I was like, okay, so this thing started somewhere between 83 and 93, formalized in 95, first guide in 2009, and I was like, okay, what happened in the middle? Oh, it's a very confused schedule for Scrum. I think Scrum maybe has an invented history, so they're really confused on when it started. Actually, the 2020 Scrum guide says that the first guide was published in 2010, which is actually not true. It's there is a lot of confusion there. Now, what I observe is that Scrum evolved like an ideology. So first, an ideology is like somebody comes and say, okay, let's help strangers and be good to those who hurt us. Then there's more realistic people coming into the picture and say, okay, let's do that, but maybe not help all the strangers and maybe just try hard to ignore those who hurt us. And then come the dishonest business people I was talking about, and they corrupt everything and say, okay, yeah, it's a good idea, but no, what about you pay us some money? We use the money to build expensive goodness edifices. We will make sure that all EGE adepts are decently treating, including the enemy that hurt you. And the whole thing is now rigid, and if you change it, we burn you. And yeah, we keep some money for the effort of certifying people as e.g. adepts. And we also sell tickets and make money off your burning event too, which some ideologies actually did. I was surprised to find out that Vatican created an app that lets you reburn Giordano Bruno as many times as you want. Yeah, so
that's crazy.
Yeah. Another thing that I find funny in Scrum is that at some point, Scrum had this story which was central to it. It was the story of the chicken and pig that were trying to create a restaurant that was called Ham and Eggs, and the pig was not very happy with the setup. So they dropped this story in 2011 because it was kind of offensive towards management of the companies, because the management were chickens and they were not allowed to speak in meetings, and it was not cool for adoption, especially when management paid for Scrum training and certification. And then I like to look at Scrum from a dietary perspective. So it's there are two ways of being a vegan. It's you label yourself you're a vegan and then try to fit that pattern, or you follow the vegan practices and avoid the labeling. And later in life, you are a vegan, but you want to become something else, like an ovo-lacto vegetarian, because you discovered there's something wrong if you don't eat some of the substances. And in the first case, if you labeled yourself a vegan, people will judge you, including not vegan people will judge you and tell you that you're inconsistent and you're not loyal to the cause. In the second case, if you just follow the vegan practices and you don't label yourself, you just follow a different set of practices and no one will judge you. Now, doing Scrum is a lot like you labeling yourself a vegan. You'll need to follow the vegan guide, which ironically instructs you to make any needed changes to your diet to stay healthy. But at the same time, you get to eat only vegetables. In contrast, being agile is like eating only vegetables and avoiding labels, like Scrum vegan. So you continue to have the full freedom to evolve. And just imagine how much time people have spent so far arguing about whether they do Scrum, Scrumbot, Sliced Scrum, or whatever. And all that time was not spent on product development. So one thing I want you to take from this presentation is to avoid labels. Stick to the values and principles. So there's also an education problem in Scrum. It actually teaches you rituals instead of the real nature of work. And I think until Scrum starts focusing on the agility again, it has lost its agile status. Not only that the Scrum doesn't mention anymore agile, but it became a rigid cargo cult. I don't know if you know about cargo cults, but this is a picture of what happened in some islands in South Pacific after they were visited by American soldiers who left at some point. But they liked a lot the cargo that the American soldiers brought with planes. So they started to recreate the whole environment that the Americans had there, including bamboo planes and coconut headphones for the guys controlling the runway. And they were just doing the rituals. They were trying to get planes to come back to get some more cargo. And this continues to this day. You can notice a Nokia bamboo phone on the right, continues to this day in the form of a religion. So this is what I see today as Scrum in most companies I've seen. It's just we do the rituals, we have the bamboo plane, and we're glad we have the plane, but it's a bamboo plane, it doesn't fly, it doesn't do the right thing, it just follows the rituals, follows the Scrum guide. So second thing I want to get to you from this presentation is to never learn superficially, to just understand what is happening, understand why is there Scrum, why is there Agile, what were the difficulties that people had that got them to this point. Not learn how to do a sprint planning or how to do a daily stand-up, or that's totally not important. Yeah. So my conclusion is let's take back the Agile. It's like a revolutionary thing. Yeah. Let's not just leave Agile in the hands of dishonest business people. We should, I think, dissociate it from Scrum. Scrum is a thing that happened before Agile, influenced Agile, and then evolved into a certification thing. So it's not really Agile. They're associated somehow, but not really doing the same thing. And we should explain newbies, people that are coming new to the industry, actually, that Agile is a thing that you create, you improve by learning from the mistakes of others, and you make it work for you. It's important to understand Scrum, to understand extreme programming, to understand everything that went before, but not to follow them religiously. I would love also to say that Agile is a software thing, and good software practices are essential to it, like pair programming, unit testing. Because separating project management from software development methodologies just makes both of them kind of half, not they don't have the full power to build a cool software product. And very, very important, Agile is built with people, and people need to be motivated in order to have success. Nothing, no process, no ritual can substitute motivation. So thank you. This is the way we take back the Agile. And now, because I created this presentation in a few weekends, I also had some slides that didn't fit anywhere, so I put them after this end. I found this very fun thing. A guy noticed that there was a discussion about combining Scrum, Kanban, and XP, and said, okay, let's call this Scrum XP, so that the consultant industry doesn't come and calls it Scrum XP. Just what happened to Scrum. Consultant industry came and did converted it into a money-making machine. I would like to also recommend something. Like, I was a hater so far. Or I would like to recommend a movement that actually kept with the Agile values, which is called Agile Uprising. And the two things that they do is they don't charge money, and they don't do certifications. So it's very fun. This is the only conditions needed in order to be able to remain true to the values. Now, this was my view. Other people had other views, and I'm sure you know about this blue dress or white gold dress, whatever it was, depending on the people. So yeah, I might be wrong. I'm mostly wrong, actually, all of the time. So, or most of the time I'm wrong. Sometimes I'm right, maybe with this presentation, but you know, we have different views. So I found a totally opposing view from someone, which was interesting to read. They were saying that Scrum not being Agile is a misconception, and they have a lot of reasoning there. You have it in my presentation. You're welcome to read it. I think it's good practice to read also the opposing argument. And Joe Armstrong, which is one of the three guys I respect most as a programmer. He created Erlang, if you don't know, and he kind of agreed with me. I don't know why, but in some video which I linked here, he says ban Scrum and all this silly stuff in the context of the worst work distraction. Unfortunately, he died, so I will never find out why he hated Scrum so much. Yeah. And if you insist on following Scrum, I found this very, very good guide of how to fix your Scrum implementation if it's broken, and you can follow that. And if you hate me for this presentation now, there is also a very nice guide of how to hate people, like professionally. Like, it's very nicely done. I strongly recommend this reading. And I think there should be a certification body for certifying haters, and I would love a title like Certified Scrum Hater or something. So yeah, this is the actual end now, and you watched the 56 slide presentation. I hope you don't you're not bored yet. I think you rock if you stayed with me so far. And I thank Juana, Vladimir, Florin, Dinci, Marius, and David for having the patience to review this monster with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian, for your presentation. And of course, we should also thank the people that are on our Facebook live feed that can still join the Zoom call and maybe ask some questions if they want. If not, we're gonna see in 2 weeks. I'm gonna stop the streaming on Facebook, and then maybe if our attendees that actually join the Zoom session can raise their hand and ask some questions if they have. I had a few questions, but you answered them along the way. So I'm gonna close now the streaming. Everyone that's watching us, come click on the Zoom link and come.